Now, I know a lot of you guys love talking about mind games. It just seems like mind games is like the controversial rapper, of the space. Almost like the 6ix9ine effect or something, where it's like some people think this house is a gimmick, some people are blown away by this house, and a lot of people are sitting right in the middle going, man, even if I liked them, can I afford them? Well, we're going to talk about a fragrance today that may or may not change your mind, but I know you guys want to know what I think about all of the latest and greatest when it comes to mind games. And though I've tried the entire house, I haven't tried them in front of you. So strap up and let's go for a ride. All right, welcome to the Scent Bubble. I am your host for the late evening. Today from the house of mind games, we have Checkmate. I don't know if I can give you guys any rundowns. Let's see what it says. An effervescent burst of champagne rushes to the action in a dazzling sparkle of hope in Checkmate. Succulent and seductive fruits and florals flow, drawing on their reserves of willpower as you experience the bliss of surrender. An intoxicating blend of tobacco and bourbon emerge. The memory of the battle fades as the ground cradles you in potent and rugged notes of earth, moss, and patchouli. Hey, I like earth moss and patchouli. Let's see what we're getting into here. What's the rating on this fragrance? 3.96. We'll go ahead and round that up to a 4 out of 5. Only 279 votes, but we know why. People can't afford this stuff. And those that have been able to be fortunate enough to try this fragrance think that it's something you should get your nose on, but not necessarily mass appealing. Dropped in 2022, and it is classified as a unisex fragrance. Okay, let's dive straight in. I do have some skin real estate left. I hope you guys are doing amazing out there. Now, I've had a lot of experience with Diptyque, and I've kind of just, my approach has been sitting back and watching all of you guys bicker about this house, because I actually quite enjoyed my experience with the house, and I'm not so naive or pompous or arrogant enough to say like things like, you know, it's like they're expensive. Okay, that's the elephant in the room. These fragrances are expensive, but take the money out of the situation and just enjoy the house. You know, the price shouldn't take away at all of your ability to experience and enjoy the fragrance. Just because you can't buy it doesn't mean you can't enjoy it or try it or appreciate it from the sideline. Are you the type of person that has a friend who's richer than you or wealthier than you or further along in life than you, and you just look at them in a different light because they're not exactly where you are? Or can you appreciate their success and be happy for them? Or even a complete stranger who's in a better position in life than you? Do you still have the ability to, in humility, be happy for other people, whether they benefit you or whether they're where you are in life or whether you care about them or not? That's how I feel about this house. Get the money out of the window for a second and let's just evaluate the house. Is there creativity? Are they pushing the envelope? Is there quality? How is their approach to bottle presentation and all that? All the normal things that you would evaluate a niche brand for. And then if money factors in, which it always does, we know this, but can we separate the art from the dollar amount just enough to say, is this worth looking into at all? And then if the final straw is the price, even though they have everything going on for them, at least you can sort through that thought process and not kind of make weird judgment calls. Or I've even seen people just kind of write them off, even though they've never smelled the fragrances or even seen a bottle of Mind Games in real life, or have never even owned the fragrance, yet they seem to be the expert representatives for Mind Games, or they just say, oh, I've smelled that before in this. And, sometimes I wonder when you guys speak this way with the certain tone that you guys have, if you're really thinking about what you're saying, or you're just kind of inwardly trying to justify not working harder to investigate and enjoy fragrances. You're kind of taking the easy way out. But, that all aside, I do recognize there are a lot of valid conversation points about this house, mainly because of price, but also because I think when you size up the price with like what they're bringing to the table aesthetically and the sense they're going after, it's a lot of controversy to be had, right? I am sipping oregano tea with lemons in it because oregano is so strong. I'm getting old, guys. It's just the way it be sometimes. Okay, I wish I could tell you what this fragrance is classified as in terms of fragrance family, but I just can't. It 100% has rose in it. It's a rose dominant scent smothered in white champagne. And I don't know how I feel about that yet because there's this undercurrent of earthiness and it is rich, but even in its richness, it feels like only 10 or 20% of the fragrance. The fragrance is completely dominated by rose. My voice is rose. Completely dominated by rose and then this kind of white sparkling champagne. It isn't the most sparkling, but there is a little bit of sparkly lift to it. So rose lovers should definitely check it out first and foremost because it's a dense, somewhat jammy, somewhat powdery, somewhat colorful, bright, surreal rose. But then that champagne finish, kind of like a L'Homme Ideal approach where it's like cherries and champagne. This is, rose petals and champagne. A lot of texture. Mid-range to upper range jumper in terms of its density. It does wear quite heavy. And then this undercarriage of earthiness to try and tone it down. It's almost like oak moss and patchouli are trying to tame this, but just can't. The bull is the rose, and it is just jumping out the gym. On skin, it wears quite differently. I get more of the complexity on skin. I don't know how I feel about this fragrance in terms of occasions. I mean, it obviously feels semi-formal and up. The lowest it can go, I feel, is maybe work fragrance, but if you wore this as a work fragrance, I wouldn't do more than 1 or 2 sprays, and I would wear it directly on skin, lower down the body, and put clothes over it because it is dense. I imagine you could very easily get 8 hours of performance. This would be in your clothes, your pillow, and all of that. I wouldn't call it nuclear, but 8 or 9 out of 10 in terms of projection, sillage, and longevity. I just feel like there's a ton of rose in this. Even the sparkling champagne-ness is kind of fading. But what remains is kind of this bright lift to the rose. But the heart is a very slightly powdery, not necessarily jammy, but the weight of jammy rose, but with the finish of powder. And then there's this little bit of earthiness, kind of like a dark, rich contrast to the bright top that's trying to pull it down and just ground it. But it's just out of control rose. Okay, let's switch screens here. See what's actually in this. Champagne, red currant, Divana, May rose, Bulgarian rose, rose, magnolia, and in the base, patchouli, tobacco, and moss. And I gotta say, if each of these were in a 3-lane race, the rose is way out in first place. The second place of the champagne and red currant isn't even close to this. They seem like a 60-40 blend between the rose and the champagne red currant at the beginning, but in the dry down, the rose truly feels like 70% of the fragrance, 20% being in the red currant champagne-ness, and maybe just a little bit of 10% of this patchouli, tobacco, and moss. I do get a lot of the tobacco, though it's basically like, it's like oak moss with a couple of flakes of really pungent smelling tobacco leaf. Just trying to ground this sucker. I do wish the rose was tamed more and the champagne was lifted up way more and the earthiness was gone from 10 to like 25 or 30%. But you know, you guys know me. I'm on my sweet meter. I think the sweet spot is like 4 to 5 for me. A lot of you guys are totally fine jumping into 6, 7, 8 out of 10 levels of sweetness. The dry down, you know, an hour in, it smells the best. When that rose just really calms down. But there's an hour period where that rose just needs to get the heck out of the way and let some of these other notes shine. And I'm so glad the dry down at least is patchouli, tobacco, and moss. I think this fragrance would be at least an 8 out of 10 on the dry down. Once it stops getting so loud and proud, I think it'll dry down to at least an 8. But in the rose family, I feel like this gets slightly outclassed by fragrances like, you know, your typical stuff, guys. I mean, any rose oud, you know, from your Alexandrias, your Atomic Rose, Silk Mood, Satin Mood, even some of the Tom Fords. I do even think there's some other rose mind game fragrances that beat this. But this is very... I think this is one of those fragrances where the person makes the fragrance. On the right person, this could feel extremely signature, both on a man and a woman, mostly a woman. But I feel like this fragrance needs to be worn outside. If you're indoors with this, it just is off balance to me. In a nice breeze, I think this fragrance, the earthiness and the champagne, will really get wafted through the rose to really tame it the way it should be. For my rose lovers out there, the opening will give you some wow factor. The dry down will feel like it lost about half of its life, which I prefer, but you may not, especially at the price point. Fragrances, it reminds, you know, very long lasting, moderate sillage. Reminds people somewhat of Portrait of a Lady, Oud Satin Mood, Cartier's La Panther. This is much more scaled down. Radical Rose, Noir de Noir. Honestly, all of those are extremely accurate. I think it's most close to Oud Satin Mood with the airiness of Cartier's Panther. Even this Portrait of a Lady thing is a bit disrespectful, which is why it got 40 up votes and 37 down votes. Let's wrap this up. So, fall, winter exclusively. If you dare wear this in spring, summer, it better be a breezy night and you better be outdoors. This feels like a semi-formal special occasion fragrance. It has a lot of signature to it. It's a signature scent for sure. For me, no matter if a woman or man is wearing it, I give it an 8. If the right woman was wearing this fragrance, I think I could move up to a 9. It would depend on her and the place. But for me personally, in terms of all the roses I've smelled, I can think of so many I would recommend to both men and women before this, because even how good it is, it falls slightly short to a lot of different fragrances. It's just kind of doing a little bit too much. The balance is what isn't that special. And I think this is one of those cases where once the top notes all go away and you see what the essence and core of this really is that you're wearing, you'll find it to be quite simple. With that being said, it's an 8 out of 10. Definitely above average, just a little bit disoriented, not sure of itself. The balance is not to my liking, and it's not just the sweetness. It's so many great ideas that are just so faint in the composition. You cannot just have an amazing rose smell in 2026. There's too many offerings that it would compete with it. Sprays of this, 4 or 5. If you're outdoors, maybe 5, 6. But I think indoors, 3, 4 sprays is like, put it on skin, put the clothes over it. You know what I'm saying? Price point. Let's go over that. Price point, and again, guys, don't think I'm talking too crazy about Checkmate. It got a 3.9 out of 5. So it almost didn't even get to put your nose on it, and it only has 279 votes. So I know if I went to the comment section of Fragrantica, it would confirm a lot of this. And it's not my first rodeo. I've been smelling Mind Games fragrances basically since they came out. So I'm pretty familiar with this DNA. I know how it dries down. I know how it wears. Now, Max Aroma is selling 100 mil of this for $315, and it retails for $400. Now, I've seen 100 mil Mind Games go as low as $200. Okay? So you just have to be creative. I can't spill the beans too much on this channel, but you just have to be creative about finding various outlets. Don't go on Facebook groups. Don't go through third parties you're not aware of. Go through, I'll say it like this, go through brick and mortar retail stores that have live stream seller auctions. And I've seen this fragrance as well as others quite regularly go for at least below $250. So once you start getting towards a $200 price point, I think this house overall is completely in a great space. It competes with everything else in the niche marketplace. But as a $400 scent, this one would get quite overlooked by me in a heartbeat, because I could dang near buy two incredible $150 to $200 niche fragrances that are of rose, or just one really great niche fragrance and save $100 to $200 and get me in the door of what this is trying to do. With that being said, the bottle presentation is spectacular. The whole chest concept is really nice. And I think most people want to love Mind Games. The bottles are sick. The aesthetic, the look, the names, it just feels very James Bond in 2026-ish in terms of the elegance, or Leonardo DiCaprio in The Great Gatsby. It just has a very, ballroom mansion level Bruce Wayne prestige to it that you want to get behind. And best believe when I get to scents that smell incredible from this house, despite the price, I will still champion them, because we will find a way to get the cheaper price. A lot of you guys don't take this into consideration here. Many of the houses you love are overpriced. Chanel's private line, same retails for the same prices, $400 or $500 for 100 mil. Even the 200 mils are like closer to 5, but even 100 mils, are up there like 300. Some of your Tom Fords retail just as high. Creed certainly is up there in that price point. Initio, Bond number 9. A lot of these houses do have retail prices on 100 mil north of $300, but they are so readily available on discounters for cheaper, you don't see them as being overpriced. But if you didn't have discounters available, you would say Bond number 9 is overpriced. Xerjoff, overpriced. Initio, overpriced. They're all overpriced, guys, at the niche level. But what happens is when you sell these fragrances in a Neiman Marcus or in a department store, they eat so much of the profit margin from the brand that they gotta upcharge just to keep money coming in the door. We don't know that side of things, and I wish more representatives would break that down, but I think too much transparency might be abused by the community, and they'll start being more demanding or sabotagey in terms of the truth that gets revealed to them. So I think that's why it's just a brand protection thing, and a value protection thing, why people aren't as transparent about it. But I think the truth is starting to come out by certain individuals, in terms of how the pricing is structured on everything. But the reality is when you're in a retail store, you got to charge an arm and a leg, because the store is charging you an arm and a leg just to sit it on their shelf. They're not even marketing the product. So, I say that to say this: if you let time pass, there will always arise somebody who gets it for closer to what the true retail price is, and because of that is able to offer it to you at a lot of times even up to half the cost. And we've seen that with just about every brand under the sun. So just give it time and don't worry about the money. Get your nose on it affordably and decide which stuff you want to put on your wish list. And maybe you can put off 5 to 10 clones to get that really special fragrance that you really enjoy if it calls for it. With that being said, this was Mind Games Checkmate. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Get your nose on it, but if you don't, you're not missing much. With that being said, hope you have a blessed rest of your week. Like, comment, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, do all that fun stuff. I'm going to throw 2 videos up for you so you can keep the show rolling. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Let me know in the comment section below, what is your favorite Mind Games fragrance? What should I get my nose on? I'm going to try to cover every Mind Games fragrance in 2026. We've already covered like 8 of them, I believe. I'm going to get to every fragrance, including the ones you guys don't see in Neiman Marcus, because I do have some special access to the house. So let's keep this thing rolling. Love you guys. Peace.